So, Cheryl White, welcome to the Disenfranchised. How are you doing today?
I'm fine, thanks, Ed. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thank you very much. Just off the back of the going back to school cold that everyone seems to have got since early September. But yeah, other than
Yeah,
that, all fine. How are things in your world?
yeah, good. Busy. Both boys back at school now and working hard on both businesses. So things are really busy at the moment.
Fantastic. And I want to learn about those two businesses in a little bit. But before we do that, I just wanted to find out, what was your first job in your career?
So my first job, I started work actually when I was 13. So I started to work in a home care, sorry, not a home care, in a nursing home. At the top of my road, my mum had friends that worked in there. All of my family are from a health and social care background within their careers. And I got my first job working in the kitchen when I was 13. I'd only been there a couple of months and I was soon looking after the residents that lived in there as well and helping them with their personal care.
Okay, wow. So that's quite. That feels like it's quite a responsibility at that age, to help people and care for their needs. What sort of
Yeah.
things were you doing, if you don't mind me asking?
So it was assisting people to get washed and dressed, helping them to get up in the morning, serving their meals. I was actually giving out medication when I was 13, which
Wow.
makes me cringe now as a nurse, But then, back in the day, when I was 13, there was no DBSs, there was no references, there was none of those type of checks. It was just, oh yeah, we know your mum, you're welcome to come in and start to work for us.
Cool. Wow. I mean, yeah, like you say, it seems strange, doesn't it? Because everything's DBS checked now, and yeah, I guess it's for the better, right? It's for the welfare of
Oh,
the
absolutely. Yeah.
individuals. But
Yeah.
so, did you continue to do that for a long time, or was that just for the summers, or what was?
Yeah, I worked in my home until I was 16. So I worked Saturday mornings, Sunday, sometimes Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon, and I used to do sleeping, which is where you went in at 8 o'clock at night. You helped sort of the person in charge to get everybody into bed and get everybody settled, and then I'd sleep there, and then I'd get up in the morning at 6 o'clock, help everybody again, and then I'd rush home, get a shower, get my uniform on, and go to school. So yeah, and then I've done that, yeah, up until that age.
Wow, I struggle to think of myself as being that caring at that age. If I think people when they're teenagers are fairly self-centered, right? On the whole, but
Mhm.
the fact that you're out there doing that kind of thing and caring for others, do you feel that's part of your kind of nature, or was that something that inspired you around you that kind of made you want to do this?
I think it's something that I've grown up with it. So I've always seen my mum, my aunties all doing that type of work. From when I can remember, I used to go into the homes where my mum worked and chat to the residents there. So I think it's always been something in me, and it's never left. It's always been there.
Oh, that's really cool. And so at 16, what happened then? Why did you stop working there?
Well, I started to do my A levels then, so I needed to concentrate more on them. So I left the home then, started to do my A levels, but I went to work in another nursing home, which was quite local, but the hours were better. So I used to work Saturdays and Sundays in there, so I didn't have to do the sleep-ins anymore.
Okay, cool. And I know you became a registered community nurse. So what kind of happened between A levels and to get you to that point?
So when I completed my A levels, I applied to John Moores University to do a nursing degree. So I'd done a year in John Moores, and then I decided to take a year out and travel Australia. So I'd done that, travelled around Australia, and while I was in Australia, I kind of set up a little home care company because I was working again in Australia. I was working in the nursing homes there, but it was really different to how we've done things in the UK, and I didn't agree with some of the systems that we had and the way that people were treated. So I put a little advert up while I was in Australia saying, that, student nurse looking to look after people in their own homes, and I ended up getting 3 clients that I looked after for 3.5 months while I lived in Sydney. Took them out, helped them with their washing, dressing, and different things. And then when I came back to the UK, I finished my nursing degree and started to work as a district nurse.
Okay, wow. But I mean, that's pretty amazing going to Australia and kind of setting up your own mini business. I know a lot of people go over there, they end up, picking oranges or, or something like
I
this,
did
right?
do that as well, Ed. So I only set the business up while I was in Sydney. So once we left Sydney and then we travelled the whole of Australia, then we've done all of the normal fruit picking, and I got sacked from a few places because I got stuck up trees and couldn't get back down again. So there's all stories there. But while I was actually in one place in Sydney while we were saving up the money to travel, that's what I did.
Cool. So what happened to that kind of business? So I guess it was just you mainly, was it, doing the
It was just me, so it was
running the
me
business?
on my own. So I was looking after these three clients, and then obviously the seed was planted then. So when I came back, finished my nursing degree, started work as a community nurse. I wanted to continue that business in the UK, but needed to do it correctly, needed to do it properly, and that sort of when Apollo was launched or born or whatever.
Yeah. Okay. And when was that? What year was that?
So I started trading as Apollo Care in 2011. So that was 11 years, no, yeah, 12 years after Australia. So I started to trade as Apollo then. I had the idea. So what I was doing is while I was working as a nurse, I was starting to set the business up in the background. So I was writing the policies, procedures, paperwork. I was doing all of the research into how we took clients on board, speaking to people from CQC, which felt like every day. So it took me 4 years to actually, when I decided, right, this is exactly what I'm going to do, it took me 4 years to set the business up.
Wow. So what made you decide to set up your own business? Because, you've got your degree, you've got plenty of experience under your belt. You could probably have found jobs that helped you progress and move on in that kind of
Mhm.
world. So yeah, why think to start up your own business?
I think the turn, I'd always thought about it as it's always been on the back of my mind because of what I did in Australia and how much I loved doing that. But then I had my first son in 2008, Daniel, and I was the nurse then, well, the mum that was rushing to take him to nursery, always the last one there because of my nursing shifts. I had a big team of nurses that I looked after and helped. So I was always the last one to leave. So I was, and that was starting to affect Dan. So I'd get to nursery literally at like 1 minute to 6, and he would be the last child sat there waiting for me, And in the end, I thought, I just can't keep doing this. I need to do something to work around him.
Yeah,
He
sure.
was then obviously the main priority.
Sure. So what did you see as your kind of options? Because ultimately you've decided to build your own business, but did you think of any other options at that time? Like maybe finding a different role, perhaps slower down
Not
or
really.
something?
I did kind of consider doing some practice nursing, which is sort of 9 till 5 roles Monday to Friday, but it just wouldn't have been me. I just got bored doing that. I like a challenge of something different every day, and that's what the community nursing gave me. And I absolutely loved my job as a nurse. I really, really love it. And people laugh now. If anyone needs their bloods doing now, or their leg dressing, there I am. I'll still do little bits and bobs when I can. So yeah, so that was the option really, to sort of go carry on with what I'm doing, but I would be running it. So it would be me, would be the business owner rather than the NHS.
Sure. So why did it take 4 years to get that business set up? I'm guessing it's because you're working in your spare
Yeah,
time to set it up, right?
yeah. So I was still working full time then as a district nurse, and I couldn't afford. I had to just go out and buy policies and procedures and bring business coaches in, and so I had to do everything, literally everything myself. And I remember sitting at the computer. I had a second-hand computer off me. My father-in-law. I remember sitting there thinking, right, I need to start writing all of this documentation. And I just didn't even know where to start. I was just like, oh my God, it was so overwhelming. But I just chipped away at it every single day and just done little bits of it.
Yeah, yeah, it's tough, isn't it? But before we started recording, actually, we were talking about how do we fit all these things into
Mhm.
the day, because you've got all those additional responsibilities, especially with a young child of
Yeah, yeah,
taking them to nursery, clubs starting to come through. I'm guessing at that kind of point as well, where you have to
yeah,
pick them up and drop
yeah.
them off, as well as looking after the house, as well as doing the full time
It was
job.
just everything, and Dan was only 3 then, and he's always been absolutely football mad. He still is. both boys are now. So even at the age of 3, he was going to football twice a week. So I was picking him up from nursery, putting his kit on, taking him to football, bringing him home, and then 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, I would sit and I would start to write this documentation for the business.
Yeah, but it takes a lot of dedication, and there must have been some real drive in you to make it work. And I guess that's driven by those picking up at 1 minute to 6. Your kid from nursery, so it makes sense. And at that point, so I know obviously we're in the franchising world today, or your businesses are. So at that point, did you ever think about a franchise? Did you even know about franchising as an option?
I didn't know what franchising was. I'd never ever heard of franchising at all. And to be honest, I just couldn't have afforded a franchise at that point. I was on a nurse's wage, which everyone knows isn't the best wage. So I'd never ever heard of franchising until I'd set Apollo Care up, and then my accountant mentioned it to me.
Okay, so Apollo Care, kind of talk me through what that business does on a day-to-day basis, because I have to admit, when I first saw the business and the business name, I wasn't sure, and not being that clued up on that kind of world, or the healthcare world, I assumed maybe it was a care home or something like this. So educate me and hopefully some others as well.
Yeah, so Apollo Care, we deliver home care to people who live in their own homes. So any vulnerable adults that live in their own home care setting, we will go out and we'll deliver care to them. So it might be to get them up, it might be to put them to bed, help them to get dressed, washed, medication. We take people out. So, people may be able to get themselves ready of a morning, but they've got nobody to go out with. So we'll also provide outing companionship visits. So everything really to keep people at home, to stop them going into secondary care, so, into homes, or, being admitted into hospital.
Okay, that's good. So I like the sound of taking people out for a day out. I could see it, sitting down on the beach, having some fish and chips or something like that. That sounds pretty cool. And it's different to the picture, I guess, that I had in my mind before we started speaking. So yeah, that makes sense. So how did you kind of find the transition then from being a registered nurse into being a business owner? And were you running this business on your own initially, or did you have people that were going out there and caring for the people at their homes?
So when we first started, I had my mum working for me. She retires this year, so she's working from the beginning, really. And I had about 3 care assistants who were going out and delivering the care for me. I was still nursing full time then, so I was literally at one point I had 4 mobile phones in my pocket, and 3 of them were ringing. So it was like the on-call for the nursing, my own, and the Apollo phone. And I was like, oh my God, But then obviously, them 3 people needed a break. They needed days off. So when they had the evening off, or that I would then pick up them calls as well. So I was working in both businesses. So I was working as a nurse, and I was working in Apollo Care, but also trying to build Apollo Care. And then the turning point came out when I ended up being admitted to hospital. I thought I was having a heart attack, and it was actually a panic attack, because I'd got myself back stressed about trying to run everything. And that's when I made the decision of I need to either leave the NHS or give this business up. I was very naive when I look back now. I had no business background, no business experience at all, but the business that I built was all around the nursing model, and I think that's why the business has done so well. And I've always been really strict on how we record, how we have our paperwork, what's in that paperwork, how we deliver care, and that's all been from the nursing background. So I think the nursing side of my career really helped me in good stead to set the business up.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because those kinds of traits, you're right. It makes sense that a nurse would have that kind of regimented documentation of everything that they're doing. But I guess that uneducated like me don't really think about that, But actually, that's a really good skill to bring into the business world, because consistency, having those processes written down for other people to follow, that's that's probably stood
Yeah.
you in really good stead in the long run as well, hasn't it? So
Yeah, yeah. And it's sad because I've seen some really good care companies fold because they've got, they've had to shut because the care's been there, but the standards and the paperwork and the recording side's let them down. And you've got to have both. They've got to be there.
sure. So was there a reason why you set it up to go to people's homes rather than to create a care home and have people come towards you? Was there a reason for that kind of model?
Yeah, I think it was my background, Ed. So as a district nurse, that's what I did, and nurse people in their own homes, mainly
Got you.
palliative care. So I looked after people who would be discharged from hospital or the hospice to die at home with a 12-week prognosis. So that was my main role, but obviously I'd done other nursing tasks in there as well. And then as I got to, people, sort of my clients, my patients when I was a nurse and their family members, would say to me, we need a home care company to help mum of a morning. Who would you recommend? And I couldn't recommend anybody. I honestly couldn't recommend anybody in our area. So I thought that's the way to go. That's what we need to do. And we need to set up a home care company that my patients need but can't get from other home care providers.
Sure. Okay. So I guess that's perhaps even more relevant today, right? I guess there's probably more people after the pandemic
Yeah.
preferring to stay at home than actually going into a care home where perhaps families may bring something in with them. And yeah, I guess just you're around more people, right? That's a potential risk, I guess.
It is, and we've found over the last 18 months, the last 18 months have been absolutely just for everybody, but for people in the care sector, it's just been unbelievable. We feel like we've just been left to get on with it, really, and we've had to get on with it. We've had no choice, But luckily, with Apollo, all of my franchisees, they rose to the challenge. We all work together, and the business has grown massively in the last 12 months because people now want and need our services more than ever before. And we're finding now that we're getting more people interested in the franchise opportunity for that reason. If there was ever a recession-proof business, then this is it, But then sadly, there's also a lot of care companies that have gone under as well because they just haven't had them skills to be able to control and to help with what's been happening.
That franchise model, I've spoken to a lot of franchisors now, and actually that kind of network, that community sharing of ideas has actually really helped them to power through the last 12 to 18 months, or if not power through, but survive and keep things ticking over because they'll innovate with a new product or something like this, or new service they're providing. So that's interesting. Well, it's expected, I guess, for you guys, and it's interesting times certainly. But what made you want to franchise the business anyway? So you started franchising in 2013, so a couple of years after establishing the business.
Yeah, I think it was just the growth of the business. The business grew very, very quickly, and in the end, we were literally having people phoning us up in tears saying, we want you to come and look after our family members, and we just didn't have the capacity to do that. There was only a certain size we could grow within our own area. So my accountant, we've done sort of an end of year review, and she said to me, have you ever thought about franchising? And I had to Google it because I didn't know what it was. And I was like, what is franchise? And I was like, oh yeah, that sounds okay. So I went to work with a franchise consultant, and that was the first steps that I took to start to franchise the business out.
Okay. And what was the experience like with the franchise consultants? I mean, it's got to be quite a scary thing, right? That you're going to pay a consultant for any business, I guess, but pay a consultant money to then take this baby that you've built up, this business that you've built up from scratch. And I'm guessing they're going to kind of almost rip it to shreds and kind of rebuild it again with you, So what was that like?
Unfortunately, the franchise consultant that I chose to work with, she went bankrupt halfway through the process.
Okay.
So I was left with a huge, thousands and thousands bill. So around about 35,000 we paid with this bill, and she just disappeared. The paperwork we got was shoddy. It had other companies' names in it, so it had obviously just sort of been copy and pasted. And by that point, I'd actually provisionally sold 2 franchises to 2 of my care staff. So I was in a little bit of a predicament there. So what I had to do then is I had to borrow money off my mum to go, and I went to Hill Dickinson at the time in Liverpool and said to them, look, this is the situation I'm in. I need a legal document. I need something that's going to protect me in the business going forward. I don't want to let these 2 ladies down who have already paid me to come into the business. I'll write everything else myself, but the legal document needs to be sound and it needs to be done professionally. So the Hill Dixon were fabulous. They helped me out with that. And that's when I started to franchise. So I quickly, again, had to learn on my feet.
Yeah, wow. That must have felt like quite a bit of pressure, actually, because that's two other people that have invested in and believed in you and your business. And if you weren't, I guess, fully set up at that point, that's working out as you go along, right? And that's not the ideal scenario. And I don't feel like it fits in with your personality.
It was just a nightmare. But do you know what? I honestly believe every single thing that happens is for a reason. So, I went through that process. I franchised the business. I got the legal documents done. I've added to that. The business then to how it is now is completely unrecognisable, but the core mission is still there. And that's to deliver excellent care service to as many vulnerable people as we can. And franchising has allowed us to do that. So with that, having to sort of go through that with that franchise consultant then set me up for starting Mercury Franchise School.
Okay. We'll come on to that in a moment. I just wanted to kind of ask you a little bit more about the people that are coming in to work for Apollo Care, because I wonder, do they all need to be nurses, or can they be somebody who's perhaps more business minded that's employing care providers? What's the kind of people that are best suited, I guess, to working with you?
I think when we first set up Apollo, when we first started franchising, Ed, we would only really take franchisees that were from a health and social care background. So nurses, registered managers, those type of people that have come from the health and social care setting. As the business model has grown and developed now, we now look at our franchisees and we can take somebody from a business background who wants to invest in a profitable business. And then they would employ their own registered manager. Because Apollo Care and all health and social care businesses are so heavily regulated by the Care Quality Commission, our onboarding process, we have to make sure that there is a nominated individual and a registered manager in place to run that business so it can set up as an independent business with the Care Quality Commission. But we've got franchisees from all different backgrounds. So we've got solicitors who have come on board, we've got business who have come on board. And we're currently working with a franchise strategist and his team to help us grow we're taking it back to Australia this year, hopefully, and then into one more country. So we're looking at building that up now. So we're doing a lot of work now on who it is that we need to actually bring into the business.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. And I was going to ask, do any of your franchise partners have secondary businesses, where, okay, this is just almost a part-time thing for them, but not, if you see what I mean. They're able to manage a couple of businesses at once. Are there any of your franchise partners that do that?
There's a couple that do that, and one of them actually, she came in and she was actually one of my first franchisees. She used to work for me as a carer. She came in and bought one of the franchises. She's still with us now. She's grown a fantastic team, Apollo team. And she came to me 3 years ago and said, Cheryl, I've really set up the structure of the office now. I don't have to be there all the time. I want to set up another business. So she set up a pet sitting service now, completely separate from Apollo. I helped her to set that up. I thought of the name for her. We really worked together. And believe it or not, it's come full circle and she's actually working with me now to franchise that business. So, yeah, we do encourage that. When we're talking to people who come into Apollo, what we say to them is, our goal and our aim for you in the next 3 to 5 years is for you to have a team that support you to run this business so that you're not working 50, 60 hours a week in the business, but expect to do that for the first at least 3 years.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's important for any business that's set up. It's got your full attention, right? You've got to do that full
Absolutely.
time, but
Yeah.
there's certainly different models out there that means you can step back at a certain point. Yeah, definitely. And I think
There needs to be, yeah.
this is something I'm realizing is actually more and more common in the UK. Certainly in the US, there's a lot of people out there looking to build up multiple brands one after the other, and then just have them as like this residual income in the long run, don't they?
Yeah. I think it's funny actually, because I was talking to another franchise consultant the other day who I'm working with at the moment, and he said to me, within a franchise network, there's only room for one entrepreneur, and it really made me think. Actually, he's right. When we're bringing franchisees in, it's really important that we find people who are happy to follow the system, and we're happy to go along with what we expect of them. That we're there to support them, obviously, but not do for them. And when he said that, it really made me sit up and think, actually, we want people who are dynamic, who are enterprising, who are forward thinking, but there is really only room for the one entrepreneur within the network.
Yeah, it's interesting. I guess they need entrepreneurial traits, right? But not to be a full blown entrepreneur, because otherwise, why are they buying into a franchise?
I think and I've seen that before. One of my friends, actually, she's an entrepreneur. I actually met her at a business retreat in Bali a couple of years ago, and we've stayed really good friends. And she's an entrepreneur, and she actually bought into a franchise. I advised her not to, but that's another story. And she did, and now she hates it because she just constantly butts head with the franchisor all of the time. And I knew that would happen. I knew it would.
Yeah, because I guess there's an element of wanting full control, isn't there, for an entrepreneur?
I could never be a franchisee. I couldn't be, because I'm always full of ideas, but I love being a franchisor, and helping and nurturing the franchisees is just the best thing, and seeing them grow their businesses.
Yeah, that's good. And it sounds like you've kind of now set up a decent enough structure within Apollo yourself to be able to then operate another business, which is the Mercury Franchise School, like you mentioned, and that was in about 2015, right, where you started to do this.
Yeah.
So, why kind of set that up, and what are you doing for people? How are you helping?
So what we do in the franchise school, in 2015, a local lady came to me and she said, I've been watching what you do on social media. She said, and would you help me to franchise my business? And at first I said, no, I don't know how to do that. And then she came back again and said, I'd really like you to help me, we'll do it together and everything else. So I said, okay, let's give it a go, see how we get on. And that's what we did. And it worked really, really well. I love doing it. Again, all the processes and the systems and everything else were right up my street, and I'd done that with her, and she was very successful, and she went on to sell franchises the right way as well. So then I started to think about me and what had happened to me, and I thought, do you know what, I'd love to help other people who want to franchise their businesses, but they're not sure how to do it. So I set up Mercury Franchise School, and at first, I was franchising for people, so I was writing their prospectuses, their manuals, their financials with my accountant was coming in, and I was doing all of that for them, but I could only help a certain amount of people. And what I was finding is at the end of the process, they were still unsure of what documents were for, when do we use them on our onboarding process. So then I decided to change. It was called Mercury Franchise Consultants, and I decided to change to Mercury Franchise School. So what I do now is I teach people how to franchise their businesses themselves, but with my support there. So I take them right through being a business owner, owner-operated business, right through to being a franchisor. So they have all of the documents in place. They have the legals. They have everything they need to become a franchisor. And what we do now is that we run these in programs and masterminds. So the mastermind now is just for health, social and wellbeing businesses. And then the program that we've structured is for any type of business that wants to franchise.
Okay, that's interesting. So it's probably quite a scary time for these people, right? They've, like I said to you a moment ago, your business is your baby in many ways, right? And to have somebody else come in and tell you you've got to kind of change a lot of it and putting these new processes in place, it must be difficult for them and quite an emotional time for them. So
Yeah.
how do you find that kind of interaction with these entrepreneurs who want to kind of grow their businesses?
Sometimes they do get quite emotional actually when they realise as well that, they get excited as well, so it can be sort of excited nerves as well. And the way we've structured the business now, Ed, is that people work in groups with me. So they've got that support network there. So again, rather than me coming in and saying, right, this is what we're going to do, we work together with the person and they've got full control over it. They're very empowered to write all of their own documents. No one knows their business better than them. And that's what we talk to them about right the way through the process. So they have group sessions with me and their business buddies, as we call them, but then they also get lots of one-to-one time with me as well, where they can talk through anything that they're worried about, or we can go over anything that they haven't quite understood.
Okay, so it doesn't sound templated, if you see what I mean, which I think I've heard criticisms of some franchise consultants out there. They just pass a template over and say, there you go, build that, and here's my fee while you're at it. It sounds like you're kind of almost tailoring the advice depending on the business, which I think is really important for anything. I think everything in the world should be personalized where possible, because you're more likely to get people buying into it, right?
Absolutely. And I think the franchise model, it can be taken and put into all sorts of different types of businesses, but that doesn't mean that their businesses aren't unique within themselves. So when you look at the way we use the franchise model within Apollo, that might be completely different to how somebody else uses the franchise model within their business. The processes might be the same and the ideas might be the same, but when you're looking at sort of how you're onboarding franchisees, how you're supporting them, how you're ensuring compliance throughout the network, it's going to be completely different for every business. And that's what we need to be getting across when they're looking to franchise their business, that you need to be working with someone that's going to really bring that out in your business.
Sure. So are there any sort of businesses you think just aren't franchisable? I mean, I'm guessing there must be some industries or sectors, or is it down to the individual person, and you could look at them and think it's probably not for the best?
Yeah, I think it depends on the individual person, as you say, and the business. What we look for, Ed, when I'm looking to franchise a business, look at, is the business replicable in other areas? That's the first thing that needs to be looked at. We then look at whether the business is making a profit as well. So that's really, really important that we look at that, because, if the business does need to be profitable for bringing franchisees in. So that's a really important one. And sometimes business owners will come to franchise their business and they'll say, we're not making any money. So we need to be saying to them, well, franchising isn't a way to save your business. It's a way to sort of expand and grow your network. But it does need to have that sort of profitability there as well.
It's interesting you say that, because I watched Draggers Den a little while ago, and I think there was a business on there that was trying to do that for that reason. They said, we're going to franchise and blah, blah, blah. And the Dragons went, but you're not profitable. In fact, you're massively in debt. Why are you doing that?
Yeah.
And they turned their back on it.
And they should. I've had people come to me and say exactly the same thing. And they see sort of people wanting to invest in the business as a lifeline for the business, and it shouldn't. That can't be that way. Another thing as well is that I think businesses should be at least 18 months old or more before they're franchised. Because you need that track record, you need that pilot business, you need their management accounts to be able to say, okay, this is what the franchisees could potentially earn within sort of the first 12 to 18 months as well. So if people say yes to them three things when I'm looking at their business, more than likely the business can be franchised.
Okay, interesting. So
it's not really sort of one specific sector that can or can't. It's very, very much dependent on the business.
Yeah, sure. So you've obviously spoken to a lot of different types of brands of businesses then and seen them set up their business. I'm trying to think of a question to ask you from the perspective of somebody who's maybe buying into a franchise brand. What should you look out for to make sure it's a genuine business, it's a good brand that you're going to buy into, that has gone through this process of making sure they're profitable, making sure that this is a model that's going to work in a franchising world, in the franchising world. What should people be looking out for in their franchisors?
I think so. If I was advising somebody now who was going to go in and buy a franchise business, I would be telling them that they need to bring some expertise in to help them to make that decision. So I would always advise that they get an accountant who understands franchising to look at figures. Yeah, so have a little look at the figures, look at the projection figures compared to the management figures that they should disclose within their financial documents. I would always say to get a financial accountant to look at them. Also, when they get the legal documents as well, to get a franchise solicitor to look through that legal document and make sure that the franchisee understands what it is that they're signing up to do, because that's really important as well. And if the financial documents sound and that's okay and everything adds up there, if the legal document looks okay and everything's okay there, then I would always say that that they're in good stead there. So you can have the fanciest prospectus in the world, you can have the best manual online, which people chat a lot about, so which you see in groups. But if your figures and your legal document aren't secure, then everything will fall down. So I would always advise that. And when we're selling an Apollo franchise, we always recommend to the potential investor, take this to your accountant. If you've got any questions, go and speak to my accountant, because he helped me write it. So he knows where all the figures have come from. And then again, we say the same with the legal document. Take it to a franchise solicitor. If you've got any questions, here's my franchise solicitor's details so you can chat to her.
Yeah, that's really good advice. I'd already thought and knew about there's lots of franchise lawyers out there, right, who can help you to look through the contract, but I hadn't really thought about it from the accountant side of things, bringing in an accountant. And it makes a lot of sense, because I think people assume they can just have a look at some numbers and go, well, okay, that looks about right to me. But when you kind of work back, actually, what does that mean in terms of delivery? How many customers do I need to deliver a service to, or how many products do I need to sell, or whatever it is? Actually, when you break it down into those kinds of numbers, it may actually be unfeasible for you, or you may feel it's unfeasible. And so therefore, what you feel is feasible for you might not actually turn into be a profitable business. So having somebody sit down and check those figures with you and suss it all out probably makes a lot of sense. So thank you for that.
I think it works both ways, Ed, as well, because we've had potential franchisees who have gone through our best fit meet, and they've passed that stage of the onboarding process. They've signed their non-disclosure, we've given them the financial information, and they've come back to us and said, I don't want to work 40 hours a week in this business to start with. I thought I could only work 20, and that's not the type of people we're looking for. So then we part company on nice terms. It wasn't for them, it's certainly not for us. So that by the time we get a franchisee ready to sign their legal agreement, they know exactly what it is that they're signing up for.
No, that again makes a lot of sense, because so many people say it's a partnership or a marriage, and it's got to work both ways. I know from my own experience of speaking to people looking to buy a franchise, a lot of the time they just think everything should be delivered to them, but actually I want to know about them. Are they actually going to be suitable? Are they actually going to have a chance of success? Because ultimately our business is, as a franchisor, is reliant on the success of the franchise partners in the long run, right?
Yeah. And again, when I was talking to my consultant, who's working with me now, my coach, he said exactly the same thing, and he said franchisees will come in and they'll say, well, what do I get for my, I don't know, £30,000? So we're saying, well, you get, all your policies, procedures, your support, your head office team, your network, your marketing, all of these things that you get, and we get you. So how are you proving to us that, actually you're worth what we're investing as well? Because it is absolutely a two-way relationship.
Yeah, exactly. They might be investing the financials, but you're investing the time and energy 100%. And expertise to help them. So Yeah,
Yeah.
it's got to
And
work both
everyone
ways.
knows that all of the time and the expertise and everything goes into the people who are struggling every single time. So we need to make sure that, the people that we're bringing in, any franchise, or the people that they're bringing into the business are going to come in and they're going to hit the ground running.
Yeah. I actually in some research of my own into franchising was a little bit put off by a brand who I asked them, what do you want me to do? What do you want from me? No, nothing, just pay the money. We'll set this up and off you go. And I was like, nah, I don't know. What am I bringing to the table here then? Why do you want me? Why don't you just employ staff to do what it was? I think it was some kind of website thing, but digital in the digital space. But I thought, if I'm bringing nothing to the table, it doesn't really make sense to me. So
No.
I'd put that out there as a little note of caution. If a franchisor isn't interested in you and your background, just think actually, what are their motives? Are they just trying to sell a license for no reason? And unfortunately, there are brands out there, aren't there, that do that?
Absolutely, yeah, there are, yeah. And I think I feel that that's one of the biggest mistakes that franchisors make, is to just sell, and not think about who they're selling to. That they're treating the business as kind of a stackable model rather than a sustainable model. So they're just taking anybody that will come in. And we see these people on LinkedIn and everywhere else. I've been franchising 6 months and I've got 30 franchisees. And you're like, oh God, how's that happened? And what's going to happen next?
Yeah, that is a worry, because talking about kind of our time and when you can fit all those things in, 30 times the problems and challenges that they're going to face in their businesses, because that's inevitable. And that's, your role as a franchisor to support them through that, not do it all for them, but support them. But 30 times those sorts of challenges, that's a lot of your time is going to be dealt with just firefighting, isn't it? Rather than helping them to progress and build.
Absolutely. It's never going to work. And I think, it's very, very unfair to those people that are investing in that business as well. We're there. We take our responsibility as a support network really, really seriously. That's what we do. All of my head office team have been built to support the franchisees. Sometimes a little bit too much, I must say, but we are pulling back a bit there. But you've got to take that responsibility. If you're bringing people into the business, you've got to nurture and support them.
Yeah, definitely. So speaking to all these entrepreneurs then and helping them to franchise their business, what's been some of the main things you've learned about them, or about business from these entrepreneurs?
Do you know what, Ed? I think the main thing I've learned is that nobody's ever ready. We're never ever ready to do anything. So when I speak to entrepreneurs who are thinking about franchising, they'll say, oh, Cheryl, I'd love to do it, but I just don't feel the systems are right at the moment, or I just don't feel this is right. And we could go through life doing that, couldn't we? I wasn't anywhere near ready to franchise my business, but I did it and I've done it, and now it's been very, very successful. And I think we've got to stop waiting for the perfect moment in any sort of situation as entrepreneurs. If we get that idea then and it doesn't leave us alone, that should mean something, that we should be doing it. And I'll speak to people who are thinking about franchising their business, and then 2 years later they'll come back and they still haven't done anything about it. And you're like, you could have been so further along the line now, So yeah, it's just not waiting for everything to be perfect. It's thinking, okay, this is what I've got, this is what I've built, and I'm going to move it forward.
Yes, and I guess that translates to anybody looking to start a business, right, or buy into a franchise, whatever it is. You're better off just doing it. If you think that that's the route you need to go in, just start. Because actually, I was speaking to somebody the other day, and they said that what happens if you don't do it might actually be worse than if you do it. Sometimes you just have to take that leap, take that risk, because you could be sitting there 3-5 years time, like you say, looking back going, oh, I wish I'd started it then. In the same place as you were 3 years ago. You haven't moved on. So yeah, cool.
It's like I was thinking with Apollo, I just had this little thought one day, as I do, and I thought, wouldn't it be great to take Apollo back to Australia? And once I thought about it, it just wouldn't leave me alone. So I thought, right, okay, I need to look into this. So I spoke to a few different people, see tried to get sort of an idea of who they were. They got me and my values as a business owner. And I've chosen the right person now who's going to help me with that. But I'm nowhere near ready to do it. The thought of doing it makes me feel physically ill sometimes. I'm like, oh my God, why am I doing this? But I just know it's the right thing to do. So, I'm investing a lot of time, a lot of money into doing it, but I'm going to do it.
Yeah, go for it. Definitely.
Yeah.
It's often less scary once you actually start doing it, right?
Yeah.
I think once you get into it, it's probably less worrying than all of the what if possibilities that run through your head.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So I wanted to kind of start to wrap up a little bit now. So I'm thinking of the questions I usually ask, and the one that I always enjoy finding out is if there's any funny, weird, strange, or weird stories that you've had within your career.
I think the weirdest thing that's ever happened to me, and it was when I was a district nurse, and I got locked into somebody's house for 3.5 hours. And unfortunately, I'd left my mobile phone in the car.
Oh, no.
So I went into a lovely lady, elderly lady's house. She had bilateral leg ulcers, so I was normally in there in about 45 minutes. So cleaned her legs up, bandaged her legs, sat and had a chat with her. And when it was time to go, she said, "Oh, I don't know what I've done with the key for the front door." And I was like, okay. So we searched the house from top to bottom, couldn't find the key, looked everywhere. She ended up saying, "Do you want me to make you a sandwich for lunch?" So she made me a sandwich. She made me a cup of tea. She sat and showed me all different types of photographs. By this point, I was thinking, oh my God, I don't know how I'm going to get out of this house. I'm going to have to climb onto a window or something. Everybody was probably wondering where I was by that point. It was well after when I should have been back to the office. And then she used to have like a little bag around her waist, and she went, "Oh, there it is." And we still say to this day that she did it on purpose. She was just lonely. She locked me in with her and made me a lunch and kept me there for 3.5 hours. So I never ever left my mobile phone in the car ever again after that. I always had it on me when I went to somebody's home.
Fantastic. It does just sound like she wanted to show someone her slideshow, like.
She did. And do you know what? That's what I found a lot when I was nursing, that the people that we went into, especially the elderly people, they were sometimes the only people we see. We were the only people that they seen that week. So if I used to go in twice a week, I don't know, say Tuesday, Friday to get somebody's leg or whatever, they wouldn't see anybody but me. And I remember once going into a lady, and I was convinced she was tampering with her dressings to keep her wound open so that I'd still go in every week. So one day I thought, right, so I put the dressing on and I double bandaged her leg, so I knew that the dressing wouldn't have been touched. So when I went in a couple of days later, I said, "Oh, are you been okay?" "Yeah, absolutely fine." I undid the bandages, and there was 2 knitting needles in the bandages, which she couldn't get back out. So she'd been trying to mess with the wound so that we would still go into her, and we found the knitting needles.
I guess then, I don't know if that's something that you do as part of Apollo now, but it seems to make sense to kind of factor that in some ways as to the individual. Do you want us to come in more often just to... Yeah, I get yeah, you are doing that because you're taking them for days out and things, aren't you?
That's exactly what we do, Ed. Or we'll go in for a couple of hours each week, and we'll sit and read with them, or we'll chat to them. One of our teams actually does that on a voluntary basis. So she has 5 hours a week that she gives out to the most vulnerable, and she pays her care staff to go in, and we do that for free. And they'll sit and they'll sit with people, because loneliness is probably the biggest reason why elderly people are admitted to hospital. They will ring an ambulance because they're so lonely, and then they'll start, because they're so lonely, they'll start to get panic attacks, or they'll start to imagine that there's something wrong with them. And as soon as they get into hospital and they start chatting to people, they're fine.
So it's their not just their physical health, it's their mental health then that you kind of...
Absolutely, yeah. And the mental health, which is just goes hand in hand. Yeah, they just need somebody to listen and to be with them. Don't lock somebody in a house for 3.5 hours. That was really extreme. But I totally understood why that lady done that. She had a lovely time.
How was the sandwich? All right?
It was all right. Yeah, it was fine.
Brilliant. So I also wanted to ask any proud or inspiring moments you've had as well in your career.
I think I can't really pick one specific moment, Ed. I think all of my teams inspire me every day, and I'm just so proud of everything that they're doing, within the community, and the emails we get are just breathtaking from family members, who will tell us how our services have changed not only their families' lives, but also their lives as well. And when we read them and we get them through, just feel proud of every single moment like that we get. The franchise managers that we've got on board for Apollo, there's 12 of them now, soon to be 14, we're hoping over the next couple of months. And all of our hundreds of care staff that are going out there every day, it's them that are inspiring of what they do. I mean, we're there to support and to help and to guide them, but they're the ones at the coalface, so to speak, who are going out and doing that. And they're amazing.
It's awesome. It makes all those late nights early on in the business all worthwhile, I guess.
Absolutely, it does. Yeah.
Awesome. And then finally, the last question I wanted to ask was if you could only give one piece of advice to somebody who's looking to buy into a franchise brand, whatever that may be. And I know we've already covered a few bits, but what would your one piece of advice be?
I would say, again, I'd go back to bringing them experts in to make sure that the franchise is viable. I would also say, look at what the day-to-day of running that business looks like as well. And does that fit in with your personality, how you expect your life to be, what you want the model to look like? So look at that and see whether it's a good fit for you, because something that looks amazing on paper, when you actually start to do it, it's not always the same thing.
Yeah, I guess, maybe buying a coffee brand might sound like it's a great, sexy, fun thing to do, stand there and make coffee and, have all those fancy buttons. But actually, if owning that franchise brand is the paperwork behind it and doing the marketing, and that's not something you enjoy,
you need to, it's like, I work with franchisors who are from the children's activities industry, and they are absolutely amazing. They'll get up and they'll dance and they'll sing and they'll do all sorts of things with these children, and I love their concept and what they do, but I could never ever do that. I just couldn't do it. It's
far too much energy, haven't they?
Oh God, honestly, they're just so great, but I just couldn't do that. So it's finding a franchise that really fits in with your personality.
Awesome. Cheryl, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate all of the stories that you've shared and all of the advice you've shared for everybody. It's been great to get to know you a bit better as well. So thank you very much for your time.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me.
No worries. Take care.